Okay, we got Justin Rogers here, Captain of the
On.
United States Army, national level powerlifter. Tell me something about you, man. Tell me who are you? What's your why? What's your purpose in life?
Man, so I'm Captain Justin Rogers for the next about month or so. Justin Rogers after that. So I mean, I guess my why is just to be the best overall human being I can be, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually. But I'm just known for publicly as my physical aspiration. So I guess that's what brings me here. So yes, sir.
Yeah, and everybody knows you as a power lifter, but obviously that's fairly new. When did you start powerlifting?
Man, so we actually had our first meet either June or July 2019. So it
Right.
hasn't really been that long, especially when you factor in, the actual pandemic of 2020 was basically a wash. I mean, no, the meets counted, but they really didn't count because there was no nationals.
Right.
So really, I've only done 3 meets in my entire life.
And you you stepped into powerlifting. When did you actually start? I know your first meet was 2019, but when did you start training specifically to compete in powerlifting?
So my first meet was June, July. I started training specifically powerlifting March.
Stepped in March and took what, sixth at nationals, right?
Yeah, so my first meet, it was rough. I mean, we qualified, but I mean, unless unless those are your only aspirations, no one really puts a lot of weight into actual qualifying, right? So
Right.
first meet, we almost bombed out of squats. Open at 585, didn't hit depth. Hit it again, hit depth. Then I went for my third attempt, 622. Got it, but didn't hit depth. So I mean, that was an experience all around. But yeah, the second time we hit the platform was Raw Nationals 2019. We put up a 700-pound squat, a 501 bench, and then a 644 deadlift, just because my deadlift could use some work. But we got a lot better now, though. So yeah, so that was my second meet, man. So I actually competed again this past December, coming off of a back procedure just from the army and football and stuff like that. I've had back problems for the last like 6 years. Put up something decent. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do in 17 weeks for Nats.
It's good you brought up the army and your back injury and your deadlifts all in one thing, because I want to ask you about that. So we know
Yeah,
you bench 500 pounds, we know you squat 700, but you personally think that you struggle with deadlifts. I mean, a lot of people
absolutely.
would say a 650 plus deadlift isn't really struggling, but for you, compared to your other lifts, you feel like you're struggling in it. So how do
Absolutely.
you approach improving that? What's your mindset when you're focusing on your deadlift and your back, because your back is affecting your deadlifts too, right?
Absolutely. So honestly, it's been I've had a lot of growth personally, spiritually, mentally, physically in the last, you know, year and a half or so. And talking about the actual physical aspect, yes, the army and I've been in the army for almost 10 years and stuff like that. So there's a lot that comes with that, as you also know yourself. Um, and one thing that I really had to really focus on was my health. And people say that all the time, but a lot of guys and young women, they see people on social media like yourself, and they see them putting up these numbers. But what they
Mm-hmm.
don't see is that they don't see all the work that went into you putting up those numbers. They don't see
Facts.
that you've been training for 10 plus years, maybe not
Mm-hmm.
specifically for your sport, but you've been training for something for 10 plus years consistently, right? They only
Yeah.
see the actual end product. So when it comes to that, like, even though I'm fairly young into competing, there's a lot of miles on my body. I mean, for playing football from the age 7 through the actual Division I football level to the Army, there's a lot of miles on your body that people don't see when they actually look at you as a person, right?
Right.
So with that comes, training smarter. When we were younger, you could go run, do football practice, track practice, go out, come back the next day, not sleep at all, and do it again and be good. But as you get older, every single thing you do, from nutrition to rehab to you know, your rest days to staying on program, all that stuff builds into your actual like training output, right? So for
Right.
me, the thing that I really had to do is really like look at my training, really see what can I physically handle and what I can't. My coach now, his name is Sanjay, super cool dude. And we actually made the decision to switch from conventional mixed grip to sumo hook grip.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to kind of get the feel for it. But I'm looking long term. I'm looking at my back is more leg dominant just due to my personal leverages. Everyone's
Yeah.
different. So I mean, you can pull conventional and have long arms, you know, long limbs, have great leverages, and your back not be affected. But for me, I got shorter arms. So
Mm-hmm.
just to break the floor, I'm using a lot of my back. Even though, yes, I'm pushing with my quads, I'm doing leg drive, but there's a fraction of it where it's a lot of stress on your back. Versus sumo, I can get into a much better position to initiate and finish the actual deadlift motion. Especially hook grip too. Like hook grip's giving me an extra inch or two, and that extra inch of length to initiate that actual deadlift is huge. Like, I mean,
It
you
is
know,
for sure. Yeah, hook grip. That was the best decision I ever made as far as deadlift. So I always hook gripped for the Olympic lifts, obviously, but I was doing mixed grip, and just once I started getting closer to 700, man, I would see in my videos that the bar was leaning to one side and my position was off, and I was like, man, I'm gonna try to do hook grip just because it's even on both sides. And I started noticing I could get in a better position over time. It was hard when I first switched, but it definitely is a better
oh
position.
yeah, it felt crazy. It felt crazy, but ultimately, to answer your question about my back and what changes we're doing, yeah. So we've made the changes to just switch the way I deadlift, and also being able to pull sumo also allows me to have more deadlift frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Conventional is very taxing. You know,
Yeah.
some lifters, you know, if you're a smaller lifter as far as body weight, you can sometimes handle a lot more frequency. But the bigger lifters doing, you know, bigger weight pulling conventional, some coaches only say pull once a week. I know I was only pulling once a week, you know,
Yeah.
and that's as
Yeah.
much as I can take.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
I'm taking it seriously, I only pull once a week. And
yeah,
sometimes it's like every 10 days,
10
not
days
even. Yeah.
exactly. But with sumo, because it's not as taxing on my back, I can pull twice a week. I'm not going heavy twice a week, but I can add
Yeah.
that frequency, and it's not killing myself to just make it through the actual workout. So
Yeah.
so far, you know, we have PR'd the last, really this last block, the last 4 weeks, every lift has been almost a PR day. So I mean, I'm really looking forward to the next 6 to 8 weeks to really see what we can do leading up to nationals.
So I think it's important to highlight that, for one, you didn't just say fuck it, I'm not good at this, I'm just never going to be good at it. You know, you assess the situation and you try to approach it from a different angle, right? So you encounter some difficulty and you said there is a way I can do this, I just don't know how to do it right now, and you try different things to figure it out. I think that's
Absolutely.
important for anybody that's listening. If you think that you're not good at something or you're struggling with something, there is a way for you to be better at it. It might take a while to find it, but you can absolutely find it. And speaking of that, I don't know if you want to talk about this. I'm gonna bring it up, but I don't know if you want to talk about it. So I've known you for a long time, and
Yeah.
I remember that you struggle with running really badly, right?
Oh yeah. Bad.
And I don't exactly remember what your run times were or anything. That's not important, but I remember that you struggle with it. And you know, you're a captain in the Army now, and you
Yeah.
clearly have to pass your PT test. And so even that, like, you've encountered so many difficulties, and you find ways around it. And I remember me, you, and Kendall would be at the apartment gym in San Antonio. Me and Kendall
Yep.
would lift, and you would say, "I'm gonna go run because I need to work on this." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so, yeah, you are very good about persevering through things and finding solutions to your
Man,
problems.
I think the whole running thing is a whole different podcast, man. I think that can take time by itself, just because, you know, as you know, the Army is very cardio intensive. I mean, it's kind of changing its philosophy from just run to more of like a cross functional type of fitness. But
That should have changed a long time ago.
yeah,
But
but it's still, you know, it's still the good old boys You know, they don't
Mhm.
care how many push-ups you can do or what you can lift, but let's go run 10 miles and see how fast
Right.
we can go, you know? So for me, that was definitely a big struggle for me and, you know, a big point of contention. And I'm not even going to lie to you, man. I'm getting out, you know, in about a month or so. And one of the things that makes me so happy is never having to run again in my life unless I want to. And that sounds so bad, man, but that's how
That's
much I
not bad.
dreaded it. That's how
That's
much I dreaded it, man. Like, you know, and
That's not
of course,
bad, bro. That was the same thing for me. I got done in 2019, and I was just so happy that I wasn't gonna have to take a PT test again, bro. Like I still actually I went running yesterday, bro. But it's so much more fun when you're not like trying to hit a
yes,
time. It's just like, yeah, I'm
yes.
just going for a run. You know what I
You
mean?
know,
So
one thing that I did, and I had a lot of flack at first, but whenever they saw the results in my training, and I'm gonna try to keep this super short, but when I was a platoon leader, right, my first time as a PL, I learned a lot of things from IBULIC or infantry officer basic leadership course that I took to my platoon. And I'm not a runner. I mean, you know, I would finish my, you know, my 5 mile run and guys would be in sweats going home already. You know,
mm,
that's how it was. I'm not even kidding, man. Literally dudes in
yeah,
sweats in their cars, you know, headed to breakfast and I'm still on the track. So, but one thing I learned is just like lifting, every program doesn't work for everybody, right?
right.
Like the Army doesn't approach their soldiers as athletes, they approach them as just soldiers, like, but you have to
Mhm.
approach them as athletes. So what I did was I innovated a PT plan that almost everybody, well, I had a 100% success rate at my level, but everyone that did it passed their run. I'm talking people cut 5 minutes off of their run time in 6 to 8 weeks. And it wasn't, you know, crazy going hard every single day. Like some days we had intervals, some days we had, you know, long distance, but it was specific in groups and not just the A group, B group, C group, because I don't know. It was specifically, I had an Excel spreadsheet with your 1 mile run time. And
Mhm.
based off of your 1 mile run time, it calculated your projected 2 mile pace, your 70% of that 2 mile pace,
Mhm.
your marathon pace, all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. And every single workout was specific for you. And literally, like, you know, at first we had a lot of flack because all the officers want to go on a run, or they, and you know, so the
Yeah.
person in the front who might run a 12-minute 2 mile, he's getting nothing from that, he or she. But the person in the back who fails, they're dying. So
Yeah.
like what is your unit really getting from that? Like, are they getting better, or are you just doing that because someone told you to do that, or that's like the right thing to do? So
Right.
what I did was we had actual workouts. Like I treated my soldiers like they were athletes. You know, they had homework
Yes.
on
It's
weekends
fun.
and it was optional, but I could tell who was doing it and who wasn't. And
Yeah.
everybody ended up passing, and everybody could improve every single day because they were going at their specific level for where they were at, and it worked,
That's
man.
really smart. That's
Yeah,
really smart. And I think it just goes along with what I was saying before about how you're a problem solver. And when you encounter a difficulty, you find a way around it. And so let's go into that a little bit more. What do you think made you that way? Do you think it was your parents? Do you think it was where you grew up at? Do you think it was something that you went through? What do you think contributed to that mindset that you have? Like, I can figure out a way to get past this.
for me, it was because I had a very, very narrow and finite definition of success when I was younger.
Mhm.
You know, my dad played Division I football. You know, like both my mom and my dad were both, you know, honor roll students in college, like all that kind of stuff. And the one thing that they didn't do is they didn't really give me anything. Like my parents have money. Um, I personally grew up in a home where we had like, you know, 15 people living in the same house at one point. And then
Mhm.
once my mom joined the Air Force, became an officer, got married, then my lifestyle improved, but
Mhm.
they still kept that like that struggling mentality. Even though
Right.
when I was about 10, you know, 10, 11, 12, we weren't struggling anymore.
Mhm.
But, you know, they kept that same mentality of like work for everything you want. And what I mean by I had a very narrow idea of success is I knew that my goal was to play Division I football. Like that was my goal. Like and I was literally going to die to do that. Like I didn't care how it happened. I was going to do that. And so in high school, man, I was kind of lame, honestly. Like, you know, I didn't party. I didn't sleep with girls. Like I didn't drink, like literally, you
That's
know.
not really lame though, man. You know, I think like maybe I guess society would say that's lame, but I think
Yeah,
having a goal and like being disciplined like that, that's not lame at all. I think
bro,
like
like
wasting your life is lame, right? So
absolutely. I mean, I didn't, you know, I didn't get drunk or sleep with my first girl till college, you know, like it,
yeah.
I like literally, I was so focused on success, man. And I saw that, hey, like while they're out partying, I can be running sprints or, yeah, it was weird, man. Like I was literally that kid, like running hills on the side of the highway, you know, in the middle of summer, you know, by itself. And I kind of kept that same mentality from a young age till now. It might look different. It might look, whether that's, you know, back in the day it was for football or now it's for business or lifting or whatever it is. You know, that's just kind of like how I've been. And I just like like there's a lot of times where you'll hit adversity and there's some things that you might set your mind to do and you just can't do it. It just won't happen, you know, but it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily give up or that you failed. It just means that something else was in store for you. There's a lot of people that don't go pro in football. Were they failures? No, they were probably very successful. Like only 1% of high school athletes play college, and then 1% of that go Division 1. You know, so it's like
How
just
do you
because.
know? How do you know when you put in enough effort? This is kind of a random question, but I'm thinking. I tell people the same thing. I'm like, hey, just because you didn't reach something doesn't mean you didn't fail. Maybe it wasn't for you. When do you decide, you know what, this really isn't for me? How long does it take? What do you think you have to encounter?
I think
That's a tough question. So I know it's gonna be.
I think that's different for everyone. I mean, look at Thomas Edison.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, how many light bulbs did he mess up before he finally figured it out? You know,
I
like
know. That's what I'm saying. Should we
uh,
have told them at light bulb 400, like, bro, this isn't for you? You know what I
I,
mean?
I think it just depends. I think it just depends on your goals in life. Like if you have a goal that you're willing to risk everything to pursue until you die, and that brings you happiness, then that's for you. If
Yeah.
if you have a goal, you know, where you're like, hey, if I don't hit this by a certain time, I'm going to pursue something else, then
Yeah.
that's your backstop for you. You know, I think it just depends on like where you're at and what you want to do, because there's always going to be that outlier who, you know, who does everything for years and years and has no success and no success, and one day, boom, they make it. And then
Right.
there's that same person that does the exact same thing and they waste all that time with nothing to show for it, or they die trying. And
Yeah.
it's really up to the the person to really see like what's worth it for them. You know, like
Yeah.
for me, I don't really see myself powerlifting for a really long time. I mean, you know, maybe another 3 years, depending. I know for me, you know, my goal is to win a national championship and a world championship, you know, and I think realistically I can do that within 3 years.
Yeah.
Um, but if I don't, am I a failure? No, you know, but like if I'm at a point in my life where that's all I want to do and I want to continue to go and dedicate 4 hours every single day to training on top of work, you know, I mean, I don't have kids, I'm not married. So like there's going to be other things in life that's going to trump my personal lifting goals, if that makes sense. So I guess it just
Yeah.
depends on each person and like how much they're really willing to sacrifice for what they want, and if what they are willing to sacrifice is worth their goal or their dream of what they're actually like aspiring to achieve, you know?
100%. I always tell people that it's not about what you want, it's about what you're willing to sacrifice for, right? Like you could want $1 million, but if it takes 80 hours a week of working and you don't want to do that, then you're not willing to sacrifice for it. So it doesn't matter that you want it, right? So yeah, I agree 100%. And my goal with these conversations is basically to give people that are watching an idea of how they can improve their mindset, how they can become more disciplined. Because people like us, you know, maybe we had an advantage as far as that goes because we had parents that were athletes and we started working out really young. So we kind
Yeah,
of just
kind of see
know
what it
that.
takes. Yeah.
Yeah, we know that lifestyle. Like you said, you were that kid that was running on the highway. I was that kid too, bro. I started working out when I was like 11 years old, and I've just never stopped since then. So for me, I can't fully relate to somebody that has like discipline problems, because I'm like, I've never had that problem. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? So
Exactly. Like
I'm trying to just give them a glimpse into our minds, and maybe we won't figure it out in this conversation, but in multiple conversations, maybe someone watching can be like, okay, I see why they're so disciplined. I think I get it. I think this will help me. You know
is
what
it
I mean?
hard for you when people ask for like before footage or before photos? Because like my before footage is me 14 years old repping 225 for like 12 to 13 reps, you know, like
Oh yeah,
so
it
it's
doesn't
like
help at all, bro.
it's
Like,
like, you know, yeah.
yeah, I got some clips on YouTube from like 2010, and for me, it
You got
was
your
a bad.
highlight tapes and stuff. Yeah, you got your old.
It was bad. Like to me, I was deadlifting 495, but the form was like horrible. So I
Oh yeah.
like show people. They're like, "Let me see like when you were lifting before." I'm like, "Yeah, this was bad," and they're like, "What? That's more than I can lift right now." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, but it was bad for me though." You know what I mean? So it's just like it's different, but um,
I
yeah,
will tell you this though.
everybody's journey is different.
So I'm not sure if you had any rivalries, man. And I know this is a little off topic, but one of the things that really pushed me was a rivalry that I had with another athlete in high school.
Who
Uh,
was it?
his name was Austin Sneed. You know, good friend of mine. But this dude, and not like race matters, but a white guy, man, was running a 4.3. Like this
Mhm.
dude, I mean, if you've seen this man, like in high school, like 215 in high school, muscle, nothing but muscle.
Yeah.
And we both played, you know, played running back. And you know, you want to fight for carries. We ran the old school wishbone offense, so we was not no, we never passed. We passed maybe once every 3-4 games, man. It was Austin right, Justin left. That was it, you know.
Yeah.
So that really pushed me, man. And you know, Austin got more carries than me and stuff like that. And I had a better, you know, average as far as yards, but you know, like he was always a little bit stronger than me, a little bit faster than me, and it drove me mad, man. It drove me mad because I was literally doing everything I could to not just be better than him, but to be the best that I could possibly be. And people would always bring up steroids, right? And you know, like you know, I can honest to God say that I've never done that in my entire life. And if someone has, I don't hold that against them per se. But one of the reasons that I'm so against it was because so Austin, you know, Austin people would ask me, he would say, no, 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 you know, I've never done steroids. And come to find out he was, you know, so
Oh,
like,
really?
so he was. So for, you know, 3-4 years of just being this much slower, this
Mhm.
much weaker than this guy. And this guy was benching like 415 in high school, man, like as a running back,
God damn.
as a sophomore, dude, like just a monster. And I was always having his back. I was like, no, man, Austin's clean because, you know, like I didn't want to, you know, accept that, you know, my friend, the guy that I'm going against every single day is cheating.
Yeah.
And when I found out he was after we graduated, man, it crushed me, bro,
Yeah.
because you know the whole time, like I could have got more carries, or I could have, you know, like. But I also think I was thankful for that experience because it made me that much better.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
was gonna say that. I was gonna say that's kind of my view on juice in sports. It's not realistic to ever have completely clean sports, and I think it is cheating, right? But like you said,
depending
you're
on the sport,
following.
some
Yeah, you.
sports is okay. You know, some
Yeah, if it's untested, but
yeah,
if it's
yeah,
tested, then it's cheating, right? But you following that dude is pushing you to your outer limits. Like, not to excuse what he's doing, but like you said, if he wasn't there, maybe you would never be the Justin Rogers that you are,
exactly.
because you would have been the top dog and you would have said it doesn't get any better than this and blah blah blah.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that is a little bit sidetracked, but that was a good story. That was a good
No, but no,
conversation.
it definitely pushed me, and I think from a very young age, just that experience, just having the mindset to, man, like there's always somebody working, whether you can see them or not. I know with Instagram, social media, people post their PR, so you can always see it. But even if you
Mm,
couldn't, you know, back in the day, like nobody was recording videos, or nobody was. You was just working in the gym, and like people saw they did. If they didn't, whatever. But you were still grinding. So like I kind of try to keep that same mentality. Of course, you got to keep your sponsors happy and stuff like that. But for the most part,
yeah,
man, like I'm training for me. I'm not training for clout. I'm not training for other people's approval of me. Like I'm training because I want to achieve my personal goals, and I'm not going to stop until something stops me, or I do that. So,
That's a good topic too, man. Somebody actually asked this on Instagram when I posted the thing about asking you a question. How do you think social media has affected people's trainings?
oh wow, man, that's another podcast, man. I think social media is a great tool. It's a great engine. I have nothing against social media at all. I mean, that's like me personally. I mean, I don't have anything against guns either.
Yeah,
It's gonna lay there. But some people they get so fueled by that like or that share or that
yeah,
tag or whatever that is, that now they're not focusing on the betterment of themselves. They're focusing more on the approval of others. And
facts.
Raw Nationals, man, this year for the most part is invite only. Like
Yeah,
only the top lifters got invited. I was fortunate enough to get invited. I know there's a lot of like controversy about that. I'm ranked number 9 in the world, number 6 in the nation right now, I think.
mm-hmm.
So they were only going to invite the top 5 automatically. Everyone else had to like sign up, free for all. But I think there was some overlap and so where they invited some of the the top tier lifters, and luckily I was able to get invited without having to like wait and sign up with everybody else. But with that being said, I say that because like there's a lot of lifters who have a lot of clout. They got 10 times more followers than me or whatnot, and some of those guys didn't get invited.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like now they're mad about it, but it's like, well, if you look at your numbers, you weren't in the top 10, like you weren't in the top 15. So just because you're getting these thousands and thousands of views and likes every single day and you're good, I mean, you're not trash, but that shouldn't automatically give you a leg up, because like this isn't a popularity contest. This is a competition.
Right.
And so like I think some people get so caught up into social media that they lose sight of why they even started doing it in the first place.
It's funny. Social media actually had a positive impact on my training. Before the period when I stopped running track in college and maybe like 2013, Instagram wasn't that big yet as far as lifting and stuff. And I was in a gym in San Antonio, bro, and I was squatting like 425, 435, 445. And there wasn't really nobody else in the gym squatting that. So in my head, I'm like, how much more can a person really squat? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I know the big football players squat 500 and stuff, but I'm like 180 pounds, like 175. So I'm like, this is kind of the top of the top. You know what I mean? And so I literally wouldn't put on more weight. I'll just do 435,
And
435,
once you saw
435.
it,
Yeah. Then I would get on social media and I would see people that squatted 365. And then 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, they do, oh, PR 405. And I'm like, this dude's kind of close to me. Then he'll post 435. And then I saw people going up and hitting 500. And I'm like, yo, these is like regularized dudes, bro. These ain't like
regular dude.
Russians training 3
Yeah,
times a day
nah.
or something. And I'm like, hold on, bro. I need to step it up. So then I
But
actually started trying to put more weight on the bar. You know what I
talk to
mean?
him.
So, but that's because I have like a competitive mindset. And I still wasn't doing it for likes. I was just like, this means I'm not improving myself as much as I thought I could. You know what I mean? So it pushed
Oh
me in
yeah.
a good way. So
Nah, like you're absolutely right, man. Like for people who don't know, I live in Houston. So Alpha Elite Gym
the
is
big
literally
dogs out there.
10 minutes from my house, So I got stationed in Houston January of 2019, right? Alpha Elite was the first gym I went to. I didn't know about, really Instagram that much. I had like maybe 300 followers, something like that, like I didn't know a whole lot about, the social media, fitness, all that kind of stuff. And the first people, one of the first people I met was Russ.
Yeah.
And Russ showed mad love. And me, I just see another bigger, brother out there lifting. I'm like, hey man, you want to lift together? But I had no idea that it was a business. Like it was like, like so like when you come there, I'm coming from Fort Riley, Kansas, where I'm the strongest guy in the gym squatting, 565. And then you see somebody load 700. It's like, dang, I gotta step my game up. So then once Russ was really, he was actually the person who told me to powerlift. Like he was actually the person who was like, yo, like he like tagged me in a story. I got like 1,000 more followers overnight. It was crazy. And I was like, what? Like, what is this? And then that's when I started actually like to compete, you know, that summer. But yeah, like you're right, man. Seeing what other people can do is definitely fuel. And like I remember, oh man, I'm benching, you know, 435 or I'm benching 450, and then which is good. But when like you said, if you see someone else your size benching 480, you know, 490, 500, it's like, okay, like then it not only shows you like, it's not like I'm envious, but it shows you what the body can actually do. Like
Right.
one of my friends, Pancake God, or you know, Jamar, this dude's an 83 kg lifter, drug tested, squatted 760, man, calibrated 760. He tripled 672, you know, and
Yeah.
luckily for me, man, my squats have been going crazy lately. Just like this last block, I tripled 671. But before I did that, I literally in my head, I literally said, if Jamar can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show you, it wasn't any shade. It wasn't any like, it was
No,
like
inspiration.
perspective.
Inspiration.
I'm like, man, like, unless you see somebody do that, you're like, wow, 670, that's, you know, that's a lot for a single. But when you see somebody in a lower weight class than you know, like pushing that, you're like, okay, I know that he's strong, but I'm capable too, you know?
Yeah.
And so it just lets you know that, hey, like you can compete with the best of the best, you know? So
Yeah. So I want to backtrack a little bit and
okay.
say, shout out to Russ because he got you into powerlifting. And I think that's what life's all about, man. Like he got you into powerlifting by showing you love. And now you're going to be able to inspire a shit ton of people, right? And you're going to show other people love and get them
Yep.
started on their journey and stuff like that. So Russ does have a huge following. I don't know him like that, but I've seen his page,
Yep.
and he could have easily been like, yo, why are you talking to me? I got all these followers,
Exactly.
blah, blah,
Oh,
blah. But,
mad love.
so
Shows mad
yeah,
love.
shout out to him and shout out
Yep.
to you because you just talked about what's his name, the pancake guy.
Yep. Jamar.
Yeah, so you just talked about him and it was all love. You could have withheld his name, but that's the kind of person you are that you want to show him love and big him up.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
respect to you, Russ, everybody else out there that shows love. And like I always say, bro, well, I mean, obviously I didn't make this up, but everybody eats, B, just like paid in full. You
Sure.
know what I'm saying? Everybody can eat. Nobody has to hate on anybody else. Like we all are trying to inspire each other to be better, right? So,
Absolutely. And that's the thing too about social media is, you know, in a positive light is just because, you know, you follow me don't mean you can't follow somebody else. So it's like, I feel like some people try to get like, you know, stingy about, you know, like the cloud or whatever. Is like we can all have a million followers of the same people, you know, like there's plenty to go and go around. So, you know, it's always love, man. Like I always try to go and show love to everybody, whether you're, you know, it's your first time in the gym or you're a top lifter. I try to show people that same respect because, you know, it's just all about, you know, working hard and inspiring that next generation of people.
yeah, and people don't know it. I mean, they don't realize it, but you know, we were those people at one point in time. Our first time in the gym. I still remember like at West Fort Hood. You know what I mean? I would go up in there. You know, some old dude would be like, "Hey, man, you're pretty strong," and something like that. You know, it makes you
Yeah.
feel good. You're like, "Yo, this old head just told me I was strong." You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like they could be like, "Yo, you're lifting wrong. Like you suck," but they show you love and it makes you want to go harder. So I always try to show people love. Like I know a lot of times people think I'm talking shit because I'll be like, man, you're really strong, keep pushing. And they'll be like, man, I'm not strong. You lift like 400 pounds more than me. But I'm like, nah, bro, like you're still strong. We can both be
Yeah.
strong at the same time, bro.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
So,
man. Like it's always humbling when you go into a gym. Like yesterday, my girl and I went to a gym because, you know, Houston, a lot of gyms are closed because of the freeze, you know, people not having power and water. So we drove about an hour 15 minutes to this gym. And you know, I'm getting there training and there's people looking at me. I was like, okay, you know, it wasn't a lot of people there, but you know, it's probably maybe 10, 15, you know, people in that gym. And towards the end of my session, two guys come up to me and you know, they're at first they were super casual, and then like they're like, hey, are you Captain America Lifts on Instagram? I was like, yeah, that's me, blah blah. And it was all love, man. And like, you know, and these are strong guys. Like these aren't just, you know, like these guys are benching, you know, 400 pounds, squatting 450 pounds, whatever, you know, like these are strong dudes, but just to have that same love and just to be able just to like show love back and like, hey man, keep killing it, or like, or even learning, man. Like you're never too good to learn. Like you can learn from anybody. Like it doesn't matter about their total. Like they can teach you something that you didn't know to help your total, you know? So it's just like, yeah, man, I'm all about love within the sport and just sharing everything. You know what I'm saying? So
Thanks. Okay, we got 2 more questions and then we'll wrap this up.
okay.
One is another one from Instagram.
Okay.
Someone wants to know what is going on in your mind before you take a really big lift. Like, what's your mindset?
Man,
You got a favorite song you got to put on? You
define
got
a
something
big
you tell
lift.
yourself?
Like define a big lift. Like define it, because I feel like after you hit a certain point, like
I'm
you
talking top of the top, bro. I'm talking you put
like
501 on the bench, bro. What are you thinking?
um you know, like if I'm being personal, I talk shit to myself, man. Like I tell myself, you know, I'm like anybody can do this, you know, like I've seen this person do this, you know, like, you know, because like someone's probably done it, unless you're breaking like an all-time world record. Somebody's done it, you know. So it's just like I try to put myself in like, hey, like I'm not the first person to do this, right? You know, like it's doable. And then secondly, is really just going through those same cues, man. The same cues you do when the bar is empty should be the exact same cues you do when the bar is, you know, fully loaded. And then I guess the third thing is just, you know, like trusting your training. You know, like um the most I've ever squatted was 705. Um, the most I've ever tripled until last block was 631. So the way that my
Yeah,
blocks are, the way that my blocks are organized is, for the most part, is based off of RPE, right? So you know, RPE 6, you got 4 left in the tank, and you know, RPE 7, 3 left in the tank, and so forth and so forth. So you know, the first week of the block is normally a 6 for me, right? And then that third week is like normally like my heaviest week, and then that fourth week is like, you know, a slight taper, you know, whatever. So I opened um, with 631 as my RP 6 week for my triples on squats last block, which was the PR that I've done before for that rep range. So based on how that moved, I had an idea in my head like, hey, like you automatically know that these next 2 weeks, unless you fail, they're both going to be PRs, right? So like I think the third thing that I really think about when I approach a big lift is just like my training, you know, like my preparation, like where am I at realistically? Like realistically, you shouldn't really approach a lift that you can't do, you know, like because you've trained to do that lift. So when that lift comes, you're going to be able to do it. Like I've never tripled 671 on squat before ever, you know, like I said, like my best triple was 631. So that's you know, what, a 40-pound increase, right? But when it came down to it, like my training had prepared me for that moment, you know, and that's just going to build into the next block and so forth. So yeah, man. So for me, it's mindset. You know, I talk shit to myself, and I think about somebody else that did it. Secondly is, you know, just approaching it the same way every single time, you know, technique, you know, pressing my feet through the floor, bracing, maintaining tension, all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, lastly, just like trust my training, like trust that, hey, like I didn't just start squatting, benching yesterday, you know, like I've been doing this for a while. So like your body's prepared for you to do that when that time comes.
Yeah. I like that, man. I like that a lot. Okay, last question.
Okay.
What legacy do you want to leave? How do you want to be remembered? What are people going to say about you?
So how I'm going to be remembered is probably going to be different than what people are going to say about me, honestly, you know, because perception is reality sometimes. And, you know, it's sometimes it's very hard to control your perception. I come off kind of, you know, I've been heard as, you know, cocky, or I've been heard, you know, as other things, or, you know, he's you know, narcissistic, you know, douchebag, whatever. But then when people actually meet me, like they know that, you know, I would take my, you know, my clothes off and give them to someone if they need that and stuff like that. So, you know, I think for me, the legacy that I personally want to actually live out and leave when I'm gone would be to be someone that helps people, to be someone that regardless of where someone's at in life, is going to show you that same love. So, I want to show, that person in Walmart the same love that I would show, Joe Biden or, or whoever's in office or, that general or, that Instagram famous person or whoever, like that's kind of how I want to do, like sometimes I'm at the gym and I might say hey to somebody and they get surprised because they're like, oh, like he said hey to me, but just because you're not a top lifter doesn't mean that I can't show love to you or I can't. And
Right.
I'm not saying people think that way, but I'm sure you've seen it too, where, like I'll be at a gym and I might not know people, but because of my accomplishments on the platform, they'll like cater to me in a way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they'll load my bar for me or they'll like, hey, you want a spot or hey, like they'll, like they not like
Yeah.
over the top, but they'll do that. So like I try to do that back in a sense. Like, I try to like when I'm done lifting, hey, do you want my plates? Or hey, no, man, you stay there. I'll bring them to you. Or because like that's what it's about, man. It's just like I can show you the same exact love that you showed me, regardless of like who you are, period. So
Facts.
I would say for me, man, like that's really the biggest thing is treating people with love and respect and showing people that, like you can push past what you think you can.
Mhm.
Like you can push limits that you didn't know existed. And it's a fact, man. Like you see so many people, especially when they first start their fitness journey. Of course, once you get more experience, it kind of gets harder and harder to, PR all the time. But you see people, man, like their first block, like one of my clients, Alvaro, he's in Canada and he came to me with like no lifting experience at all. And this is like I think his sixth block with me. And he sent me a video of him doing like just a easy, squat triple. And he was like, dang, coach, like this is crazy that, when we first started training, I couldn't even do this one time. I was like, yeah, man, that's because all the work that you put in, but there's so much more to the human body than people really give it credit for. And if you can just kind of like get someone to really unlock that and see that potential, that's what it's all about.
Facts. All right, man. It was great talking to you, bro. Got a
Sir,
lot of not a lot of knowledge from you today. So
sir, congrats on the engagement.
I appreciate it, bro.
I hope to be getting that invite soon. I haven't seen it yet, but
I haven't sent no
know it's
invites out
coming.
yet, bro. I
I know
haven't
it's
sent any
coming.
invites out. You will get an invite, bro.
Bet. All right, bro. Yes,
All
sir.
right, man. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for coming on the show.
For sure, bro. Later.